మీకు ఎప్పుడు పెడతారా? 11 అయిపోయింది. ఒక్క నిమిషం ఫోన్ చేయాలి వాళ్ళు. స్టార్ట్ అయింది స్ట్రీమింగ్. మేడం వస్తుంది మేడం. థ్యాంక్ యూ. చూసుకోండి. మళ్ళీ మధ్యాహ్నం కూడా వస్తారా? మధ్యాహ్నం
ఈరోజు
మేడం చెప్పింది రోజు 2:30 నుంచి 3:30 వరకు అని.
రేపు
అప్ టు నెక్స్ట్ ట్యూస్డే వరకు అని చెప్తున్నారు.
ఇవాళ రేపు అయిపోతే సార్ ఇంకా లేదు.
కొత్త సిలబస్ అయిపోతుందా? మీకు అలా అయిపోయింది.
morning, students. Today we will be discussing about obesity and starvation. What is obesity? Obesity is overnutrition. Overnutrition is a worldwide nutrition problem in both developed and developing countries. Obesity is a condition in which excess fat is accumulated in the body. BMI is used for determining whether a person is obese or normal weight. BMI is calculated by dividing the weight in kgs and height in meters square. If your BMI is about 25 kgs per meter square, you are in normal weight. If your BMI is up to 30 kgs, you are overweight, and if your BMI is above 30 kgs, you are considered as obese. What are the causes of obesity? Obesity is mainly due to increased ingestion of food which is consumed in excess of body's needs. It may be due to increased intake of calorie-rich food, and it may be due to lack of exercise. Both these factors will lead to hypertrophy and hyperplasia of adipocytes. Hypertrophy is increase in number of fat cells, and hyperplasia is increase in the size of fat cells. Another cause of obesity is genetic predisposition. If one parent is obese, there is 50% chance of children becoming obese. What are the major ill effects of obesity? There will be increased risk of coronary artery disease. There will be increased risk of hypertension, diabetes mellitus, metabolic syndrome, and maybe decreased lifespan. Studies showed that when you take calorie and fat restricted diet, this will lead to retard aging process and increase the lifespan. What are the diseases related to obesity? Sensitivity of peripheral tissues to insulin decreases. This will lead to diabetes mellitus, and number of insulin receptors decreases in adipose tissue, and also plasma insulin levels increases. Cardiovascular disease risk will be increased, like coronary artery disease and atherosclerosis. Abdominal obesity, this is due to increased weight to hip ratio, and metabolic syndrome, this is also called as syndrome X. This syndrome, we have four components. One is insulin resistance, and another is hyperglycemia, and another is hyperlipidemia. In hyperlipidemia, there will be increased low density lipoprotein or LDL, and there will be decreased high density lipoprotein, and there will be obesity. Majority of diseases nowadays are due to this metabolic syndrome. One best example is PCOS. How do you treat obesity? First and foremost thing is lifestyle modification, that is taking healthy diet and restricting fat diet and processed foods, and adapting healthy lifestyle activities like exercise, and decrease intake of calories and fat, frequent small meals with lot of vegetables and fruits. Certain drugs are used, but no drug is approved for clinical use. Surgery which is performed in cases of extreme obesity, when your BMI is more than 35 or so, doctors perform a surgery which is called as bariatric surgery. In this, a part of your stomach will be removed. There may be gastric banding or gastric bypass may also be performed. And another aspect is starvation. Starvation will be due to decreased intake of food, or you stop taking food altogether. What happens when you stop taking food? There will be metabolic adaptation during starvation. Glycogen is a storage form of glucose. Glycogen stores will be depleted by the end of 24 hours. When you stop taking food, there will be no glucose in your body, and this glycogen, which is a storage form of glucose, will be released, and this glycogen will be depleted by the end of 24 hours. And gluconeogenesis occur in liver. And what are the substrates for gluconeogenesis? One is alanine, which is released from the muscle, and another is glycerol, which is released from lipolysis. Lipolysis means separation of from the fats. Fats will release glycerol. What happens in first stage of starvation? The primary requirement for glucose is to meet metabolic demands of the brain. Brain mainly depends on glucose for all its activities. In the first stage of starvation, blood glucose is maintained by hepatic glycogenolysis. This glycogen is stored in the liver. During starvation first stage, this glycogen will be dissolved and it will release glucose. These glycogen stores are adequate for 18 hours. And coming next, when these glycogen stores are depleted, there will be gluconeogenesis, that is second stage of starvation. In the second stage of starvation, amino acids will be released from the muscle from major substrate for gluconeogenesis. This alanine and glutamic acid, they serve as important mode of transport of amino acids to the liver. These amino acids are released from the skeletal muscle and they reach liver. Branched chain amino acids released by muscle protein catabolism are leucine and isoleucine. These are utilized by muscle to give energy. Again, brain preferentially takes glucogenic valine from bloodstream. Plasma levels of branched chain amino acids reach peak by 5th day of starvation. In third stage of starvation, after this gluconeogenesis is also depleted, again if you stop taking food, there will be third stage of starvation, that is lipolysis. This fat will be dissolved and it will release energy. In skeletal muscles, heart, kidney shut down glucose utilization and depend mainly on fatty acids for energy needs. There will be increased lipolysis and increased beta oxidation. This will lead to acetyl-CoA and ketone bodies formation. These ketone bodies are used as fuel for cardiac muscle, skeletal muscle and brain. In fourth stage, there will be acidosis. Excess of ketone bodies which are formed in third stage will lead to metabolic acidosis. Since glucose is low, insulin secretion will be decreased and more glucagon will be secreted. There will be fall in thyroid hormone levels, mainly T3 levels. This will lead to decreased metabolic requirements by 25%. Fifth stage is starvation. Death will occur due to starvation. In this, there will be metabolic acidosis and dehydration. Unless corrected, this will lead to death. Normal person has fuel reserves up to 45 to 60 days. Next, first overview of starvation is, in first stage of starvation, there will be glycogenolysis. Glycogen stores which are present in the liver will be released and this will be utilized for up to 18 hours. In second stage of starvation, there will be gluconeogenesis. This gluconeogenesis substrates are alanine and glutamic acid. These are utilized from the skeletal muscle. In the third stage, there will be lipolysis, which will be coming from the fat reserves in our body, and there will be ketone bodies formation. And in fourth stage, there will be acidosis due to excess of ketone bodies, and fifth stage, there will be dehydration and metabolic acidosis. Unless we correct them, this will lead to death. Thank you.
ఏం చేస్తా మరి ఇంకా సిచ్యువేషన్ అట్లుంది. Hello, good morning children. Is it audible? Voice is audible? Put in chat box. Voice is audible or not? Okay. Let us see what is water purification. So you might have known for what purpose water will be purified. What are the importance of water purification? So let us go step by step. So purification of water will be taken in large scale and small scale. Large scale means that will be supplied from the reservoirs. Small scale means for domestic purpose, that is through wells or bore wells or tube wells. So when it comes to large scale, storage will be there. Storage, filtration, next disinfection will be there. So once the water is stored in the reservoirs, ultimately it has to be get disinfected. So for the disinfection purpose, what they will do, they will bleach it with chlorinated with either chlorine or some other disinfectants, so that water will be not getting infected. That is on small scale. When it comes to large scale, so household purification, first one is boiling. So through boiling we can kill almost all microorganisms. Up to what point you have to heat the water means at 100 degree Celsius you have to heat it up, and you have to warm it up, means you have to dry it up, so that it will be getting purified. Next one is chemical disinfection. So here chemical disinfection, they will be using different types of chemicals for disinfecting. First and most popular one is the bleaching powder they will use. Next one is chlorine solution. Next one is high test hypochlorite. Next, chlorine tablets. Next one is iodine, and next one is potassium permanganate. These are the chemical disinfections which will be having at our households. So this is not suitable in large scale purification, but in small scale purification at our houses this is possible. So what are the chemicals they are using here? First one, the topmost is the bleaching powder. Next one is chlorine solution. Next one is high test hypochlorite. Next one is iodine. Next one is potassium permanganate. These are the very famous chemicals they will be using in the household settings. Next one, household filtration through ceramic filters. What do you mean by ceramic filters? So already you will be having filters in your house. The filters which you are using in the house is made up of ceramic filters. So they will be using ceramic here. So you might have seen that filters, it will be looking like a candles. You will call it as ceramic filter candles. Next one is disinfection of well. If you are taking water from the well, you have to disinfect it. How you will be disinfecting means you have to add bleaching powder. Next one is double pot method. Double pot method, nowadays they are not using, only the bleaching powder they are using now. Next come to storage in artificial and natural reservoirs. Effects of storage. What are the impacts you will be having when you are storing the water? First one is physical. Gravity, that is 90% suspended impurities settle down in one day. So how the water is getting stored means when the rain is coming, it will be ultimately stored in the reservoirs or lakes. So ultimately what will happen? Nearly 90% of the suspended impurities will settle down in one day. So whatever the impurities are there, they will be taking nearly one day to settle down. So when the rain is coming, immediately you can't drink it. Immediately you can't drink it or use for household, use also. So because it will be having many impurities in that. So to settle down all the impurities, it takes almost 1 day to settle down, so that afterwards you can use it. Next one is chemical. Organic matter, that is oxidation, will be taking place with help of nitrates and lesser free ammonia, that is aerobic bacteria dissolved in oxygen. So here chemical, so they are using some chemicals. What is the mechanism of action? Means here oxidizing action will be taking place with help of increased nitrates and decreased free ammonia. So you have to increase the nitrate levels and decrease the free ammonia level, so that the aerobic bacteria will be dissolved with the oxygen. Next one is biological. Only 10% bacteria remains at the end of 1 week. So when it comes to biological property, only 10% of bacteria will be remaining at the end of 1 week. So all the bacteria may not be killed up by this chlorination process. Nearly 90% only can be killed up. The remaining will be settling in the reservoirs itself. Next, what is the optimum period of storage? Means at least 2 weeks you can store it. After 2 weeks, if you are not distributing to other places, or domestic purposes, or irrigation purpose or industrial purpose, what will happen again? This water will be getting infected. So again you have to disinfect. So within 2 weeks of disinfection, you have to send that water for industrial purpose or domestic purpose or whatever it may be. So this is the optimum period of storage, that is at least 2 weeks it has been stored. Next one is filtration. Water passes through porous media, slow sand or biological filters. So here they are used in 19th century in Scotland. Elements of slow sand filter, that is filter box will be having supernatant water, sand bed, under drainage system and filter control valves. So this filtration system, so water pass through porous media. So when water is passing through porous media means if you take a cloth or porous paper, what if you pour some water on it, ultimately if any dust particles are there, it will be settling down on the porous cloth or paper. So in that same manner the water can be purified. It was first used in 19th century in the Scotland country. Elements of slow sand filter. So here they will be using filter box, that is supernatant water will be there, sand bed will be there, under drainage system will be there. With these only you can filter that one. Next you will be having filter control valves. So this is also a old system of filtration. Next one is gravel in slow sand filter. So if you see the image, they will be using gravel. Gravel means small rock substances. With that they will purify the water. This is also a old one. Nowadays they are not using this one. Next one is supernatant. What is supernatant water? So here depth will be 1 to 1.5 meters. The pit depth will be 1 to 1.5 meters. It promotes downward flow of water through the sand bed. Provide waiting time of 3 to 12 hours for raw water to undergo partial purification by sedimentation and oxidation. So when you take supernatant water, how much depth you have to take means 1 to 1.5 meters. When you take the depth, it will be promoting for filter. It promotes downward flow of water through sand bed. So in between they will be having a sand bed. In that sand bed they will put the gravel, so that whatever the water is entering, it has to enter into the sand bed and it will be settling down. Provide waiting time for 3 to 12 hours for raw water to undergo partial purification by sedimentation and oxidation. Here the two physical properties are there in supernatant water. The thing is sedimentation and oxidation. Without sedimentation and oxidation, that process cannot be taken place, and moreover it takes 3 to 12 hours for the raw water to undergo partial purification. Here only partial purification is possible. Complete purification of water is entirely not possible. Next one is sand bed supported by gravel. So here the depth of the pit is 1 meter, sand with 0.2 to 0.3 millimeter in diameter, 0.3 meters, that is gravel with 0.2 and 1 centimeter diameter. This is the depth of the pit. Next one is vital, biological and zoological layer. Next one is shedmujki, slimy gelatinous layer over sand bed containing thread-like algae, bacteria and diatoms. Heart of the flow sand filter, ripening of filter, that is formation of vital layer. So here when you take sand bed, this is one more type. The depth will be 1 meter. They will be using sand. When they are using sand, it should be around 0.2 0.3 mm in diameter. Remember, when they are using gravel, it should be 0.3 meters and the diameter should be 0.2 1 centimeter. Next one, they will be having vital, biological and zoological layers. Next, they will be again having slimy gelatinous layer over the sand bed containing thread-like algae, bacteria and diatoms. So in the previous things we are having only sand bed, in that you will be using only gravel, but in this you will be having a slimy gelatinous layer to filter that bacteria, and sand bed containing thread-like algae, bacteria and diatoms. Next, it is the heart of the slow sand filter. Which one is the here what tell heart of the slow sand filter means sand bed supported by gravel. That is very, very important. That's why they are telling it is a heart slow sand filter. Next one is ripening of filter, that is formation of vital layer. Ripening means, you know, after a example, if you take a fruit, when you take it in in early stages, you take a mango or a custard apple. In the earlier stages you may not eat, but in the later stages, after 2 or 3 days, when it ripens, you will be able to eat. That times it will be taste properly. That is the ripening. Here also the ripening of the filter should be taken place. So when this ripening will be taking place means when the vital layer will be forming on the sand bed only it is possible. Otherwise it is not possible for usage of drinking water. This is about supernatant water. Mechanism of action of slow sand filter. So here, sedimentation. The supernatant water acts as settling reservoir. Settleable particles sink into the sand surface. Mechanical straining. Particles too big to pass through the interstice between sand and grains and are retained. Next one is adhesion. The suspended particles that come in contact with the surface of the sand grains are retained by adhesion to the biological layer. That one you will call it as shedmujki. Next one is biochemical process in the biological layer. It removes organic matter, holdbacks bacteria and oxidizes ammonical nitrogen into nitrates. Conversion of soluble iron and manganese compounds into insoluble hydroxides which attach themselves to the sand surfaces. So this is the mechanism of action that will be taking in the slow sand filter. First one is sedimentation. You know sedimentation, no? The supernatant water. Already we have seen what is supernatant water. The supernatant water acts as a settling reservoir. Settleable particles sink into the sand surface. So here you have to remember the thing is the supernatant water acts as a settling reservoir. It is not a filter or other things. It is will be acting as a settling reservoir only. Whatever the particles are there, the settleable particles sink into the sand surface. So if the settleable particles are there, they will sink into the sand surface. Next one is mechanical straining. Particles too big to pass through the interstices between the sand and grains are retained. So particles which are too big, if the particles are too big, they can't pass through the sand filters, so they will be settling there only on the top of the sand layer, gravel layer. Next one is adhesion. The suspended particles that come in contact with the surface of sand grains are retained by adhesion to the biological layer. Adhesion means to withhold. The suspended particles which are settling on the sand bed, sand filter, they will come in contact with the surface of sand grains. Whatever the sand grains are there, they are retained by adhesion. That is one of the property of the water. So here the sand grains are retained by adhesion to the biological layer. That one in Japanese word they are using that shadmujki. That's one terminology. Next one is biological process in the biological layer. So there is one biological layer in this slow sand filter. It removes the organic matter, holds back bacteria and oxidizes ammonical nitrogen into nitrates. So when it comes to biological properties, it removes the whatever the organic matter is present in the water, it removes all the organic matter and holding back bacteria. So why it is holding back bacteria means it has to be oxidized as well as it has to be converted ammonical nitrogen into nitrates. In the first slide itself you have seen there will be decreased ammonia and increased nitrates and decreased ammonia. That time only it is possible to filter the water. Conversion of soluble iron and manganese compounds into insoluble hydroxides which attach themselves to the sand surfaces. So here conversion of soluble iron and manganese compounds. So these are the some compounds you can find in the water. So those are the thing is here they have to be converted, these compounds, which one, iron and manganese, into insoluble hydroxides. When they are able to oxidize, that time only they will attach to the sand surfaces. When they are not attaching to the sand surfaces, the water cannot be filtered out. So this is the biological property of the biological layer in the slow sand filter. Next, under drainage system. So here the depth is 0.15 meters. At the top of the filter bed, porous pipes, outlet for filter water as well as to support the filter and the media above. Filter control valves to regulate the flow of water in and out. Next one is filter cleaning. Increased bed resistance leads to necessary to opening the regulating valves fully. Scraping top position of sand bed up to 2 centimeter depth. Time for clearing the filter after 2, 3, 4 years new filter bed is constructed. So this is one more type of filtration under drainage system. This is also nowadays not following, but you have to know it. Here the depth of the pit is 0.15 meters. At the bottom of the filter bed there are porous pipes. Porous pipes means the pipes will be having some holes on it. So outlet for filter water as well as to support filter media above. For that they will be using control valves. So why they have to use control valves means to regulate the flow of water whether to in or out, that is entry or exit. For that reason you have to have filter control valves. Then how you will after some or the other days you have to clean the filters, because all the dust and other things will be accumulated in the filter. So you have to go for filter cleaning. When you have to go for filter cleaning means when there is increased bed resistance, that time you have to go for filter cleaning. Necessary to open the regulating valves fully. So here the filter control valves are there, no, they will open completely, they will be open, nothing should be there, because the entire water has to be sent out, then only it is possible for the filters to clean it out. scraping top position of sand bed up to 2 centimeter depth. So when you are doing this, you have to do scraping at top position of the sand bed up to how much depth means at least 2 centimeter of depth. You have to do the scraping. Scraping means whatever the sedimentation particles are there, you have to remove it. Next, timing for the cleaning filter. What is the time for the cleaning filter means at least every 3 to 4 years the filter has to be cleaned up, otherwise all the dust particles will be accumulated in the filter. See, this is a image of vital layer which is stored in the reservoirs. Clean slow sand filter without water. This is one more type. Here the water will be not there. Without water they will clean it up. On the top you can see, in the first image you can see the water. Here empty, gravel, sand is there. So after cleaning it, again the water will be released into the second compartment, so that water will be getting purified there. Next one is rapid sand filtration. Gravity type open. First one here, river in mixing chamber, coagulation by alum 5 to 40 milligrams per liter, violent mixing of alum in minutes. So here when it comes to river, first whatever the water we are getting from the river itself, so from getting from the river it will be mixing in the mixing chamber with coagulation by alum, that is one chemical substance. How much quantity you have to use means it should be around 5 to 40 milligrams per liter, violent mixing of alum in minutes. So next one is inflocculation chamber, slow stirring of water by paddles for 30 minutes. Slow stirring of water by paddles. You know what do you mean by paddles? Paddles means at the time of preparation of jaggery, you will be using some paddles to prepare, to mix up that jaggery which will be in the liquid form. Like that only same paddles will be there. By using those paddles they will stir up the water at least for 30 minutes. Flocculent precipitate of aluminum hydroxide entangles all particulate suspended matter along with bacteria. So whatever the flocculent precipitate is there which is settled down at the bottom of the reservoir, it will be the flocculent precipitate of aluminum hydroxide. It entangles all particulate matters, suspended matters along with bacteria. These all will be removed. Next one is sedimentation chamber. Flocculent precipitate settle down, removal is done time to time, clean water above goes to for filtration. In the third step, sedimentation chamber. In the sedimentation chamber, the flocculent precipitate will settle down. Removal done, the removal done is time to time. When you go for filters, we are taking nearly 3 to 4 years for clean the filters, but in this sedimentation chamber you have to do it on time to time basis, means at least weekly or thrice you have to clean it up. Clear water above goes for filtration. So when the water has been cleared, again it has to be subjected for filtration, then only it will be useful for drinking purpose or household purposes. This is about rapid sand filtration. Next, rapid sand filter. Remaining alum flocculent or flocculent layer over sand bed, it holds bacteria's oxidized organic matter. Backwashing by air bubbles or water when flocculent layer becomes very thick. So when you take rapid sand, there what is happening, the remaining alum or flocculent matter which has been settled down over the sand bed, it holds back the bacteria. See why it is hold back to bacteria means, again it has to undergo oxidation process. For that reason bacteria will be settling down there itself. Next, backwashing by air bubbles or water when flocculant layer becomes very thick. So when the flocculant layer is becoming very thick, what will happen when the water is coming into the sand bed, the air bubbles will be formed. By that way, the flocculant water will be flushing away. This is will be happening in the rapid sand filter. These are the paddles in a flocculation chamber. They will be subjecting to at least 30 minutes, because when you are subjected to flocculation chamber with paddles, whatever is there, all the sedimentation particles can be removed off. So this is not possible by theoretically, but the thing is, when you go practical and see that time, then only it will be understandable for you people. So this is about paddles which they will be using in a flocculation chamber. Properties. So rapid sand filter and slow sand filter, what are the properties? You can differentiate. They will ask in exam about sometimes this one also, properties of rapid sand filter and slow sand filter. That time you have to draw this columns and differentiate. When you take area, rapid sand filters requires small area, slow sand filter requires larger area. Rate of filtration per how much means liters per meter square per hour. When it comes to rapid sand filter, it is around 4000 to 7500 liters per meter square per hour. Next, when it is come for slow sand filters, it will be around 100 to 400 only. Size and diameter will be 0.4 to 0.7 millimeter. In slow sand, it will be 0.2 to 0.3 millimeter. Next one is pre-treatment. Coagulation and sedimentation is necessary in rapid sand. Sedimentation is required in larger sand filtration. Filter cleaning property. Here backwashing is necessary. In this one, scrapping is necessary. Operation. When you take operation, more skills has to be applied in the rapid sand filters. Less skills can be applied in the slow sand filters, because the surface area that is very low. Very compared to this one, smaller area it will be large. That's why they are using for scrapping. Next one is removal of color. In rapid sand, it will be good. In the slow sand filter, it will be better. There is some difference between good and better. Try to understand. Next one is removal of bacteria. 98 to 99% bacteria can be removed through rapid sand filtration. 99.9% or nearly to 99.99% it's possible through slow sand filter. Prior water storage. In rapid sand filter, storage is needed, but in slow sand filter there is no need of storage of water. As soon as the water will be coming, it will be filtered and distributed. But when it comes to rapid sand filter, the storage is very essential. Why means all the things we have seen, the properties, the oxidation properties, all these things has to be taken place. For that reason, it needs storage of water. So these are the different properties between the rapid sand filter and the slow sand filter. Remaining in the next class I will continue. Have you any doubts? Put in the chat box.
బుకింగ్ ఉంది కదా,
Hmm.
అది ఎప్పుడు నుంచి ఎగ్జామ్?
ఎగ్జామ్
ప్రాక్టికల్ ఎగ్జామ్ ఉంది కదా.
అది వాళ్ళకు 21st నుంచి, 21st
ఈ
26th.
నుండి థర్డ్ ఇయర్స్కి సెకండ్ ఇంటర్వ్యూలో స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది.
చూసుకోండి, థర్డ్ ఇయర్కి ఏం సంబంధం, థర్డ్ ఇయర్
అంటే సబ్జెక్ట్ వైజ్ ఉన్నారు కదా సార్.
అది చూసుకోండి, అది కోయిన్సైడ్, ఎందుకంటే ఎగ్జామ్స్ ఉంటే 21st నుంచి పెట్టకండి,
అది అందుకే అడుగుతుంది.
21st నుంచి ఉంది. ఏమైనా ఉంటే 21st వరకు, 20th వరకే క్లోజ్ చేసేయండి.
ఎన్ని డేస్ ఉంటుంది సార్ వాళ్ళకి?
5 days,
5 days.
5 days యాజ్ పర్ యూనివర్సిటీ. మరి ఎన్ని డేస్ కండక్ట్ చేస్తే తెలియదు కదా. Any doubts? Any doubts? Put in the chat box.